What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. Want to come back and answer a question here because I was actually going to respond in an email or a note to someone, but I thought it might help everyone out there. And the question is, how can one become a financial coach to groups? This one is a little tough, and I think different people will have different responses to this. And even if I learn a little bit more about what the group is, I would probably kind of tilt my answer or kind of craft a different answer, with more specificity. But basically, financial coaching to groups is quite a bit different than individual financial coaching. For example, individual financial coaching is having that conversation, understanding what people are doing, a person is doing, what their goal is, help goal setting, identifying like what the behavioral challenges are, whatever it might be, right? It's very individualized, and it can kind of go wherever the person in that financial coaching session wants to go, right? I mean, we talk about motivation or, their hangups or values or whatever it is. So obviously that's where we want to be most fluid, like water. I guess, got a little frog in my throat. Sorry about that. But group coaching is quite a bit different. And actually, when I first started out, what I wanted to do was kind of scale up my ability to reach more people by doing group sessions. And one of the reasons that I did that too was because our employers, so the employers would hire me to work with their employees. Now we would do individual group or individual coaching, so I could get on the phone call, Zoom call, those types of things with a person. But a lot of employers wanted to just pull their employees out, say for 45 minutes, an hour, something like that, have one session over to lunch or whatever it might be, and do group coaching. And that is a little bit of a challenge, especially if you don't have a lot of time, and especially depending on the size of the group, because you have a lot of people that want to share, a lot of talking. You've got to build in basically 80% of the time just to let people open up, because that is part of what's going on. But my tips on group coaching is have it very directed. So it's going to be somewhat of the opposite of individual coaching. And I would say that when I first started, how I did group coaching was that I made a little workbook. It was about 6 pages. I don't know where it is now, but it was about how to identify what's important to us, what goals we want to set, and then how we break those goals down, and then what commitments we're going to make to make progress towards those goals. So really what I wanted to do by the end of that hour was kind of go through that workbook so that at the very end we had very specific ideas and goals identified, written down, some of those broken down into tasks, whatever it might be. And the goal was to get through that. Now, this is almost like a course. So if you have a course, budgeting, paying off debt, whatever it might be, I think what you want to advertise is that the group's coaching session is going to be about something. And in my case, it was about goal setting. It was about achieving what you want out of life. That's kind of how it was marketed, but it was really about goal setting, right? So then I kind of built some other ones that were on some other things, how to use the debt snowball, the debt avalanche, other debt pay down strategies, how to address student loans, right? From either the parent's perspective or the student's perspective, whatever it is. But those group coaching sessions had a kind of a very fixed message and coursework, because what I could do is say, if I had 6 pages, I knew that I had 10 minutes per page, right? And if we were getting on the sharing of like, what do you want out of life? And some person said, I just want to be able to know that I can retire at some point. Someone else might say, I want to just get my finances in order so that I'm not stressed every week to buy groceries. Someone else says, hey, I want to know that I can send my kids to the college that they want. Someone else says, hey, I want to buy a new car or replace my aging car, and I just don't know how to do it, or get my credit score up, right? So this is where we can have these discussions. People can open up. I think a lot of that helps disarm some of the things that or the reluctance that a lot of people have. They say, hey, I'm in debt. This person wants to save enough money for retirement. Are you kidding me? I just want to pay off a credit card. So as people talk, I think that helps kind of establish some trust, in the group. And you want that kind of open dialogue, although there will be limits to how much people can share. And so you kind of want to invest early on that. But then I knew that, all right, let's talk about some of these things, get them down in the book. Some people won't share. They'll just write them in their book themselves. All right, within 10 minutes, I have to be on page 2. And so I can explain the task, the goal, what we're breaking down in that moment, kind of give some context, maybe share an anecdote or whatever it might be. But then I have time built in so that people can contribute. And that helps keep me on pace, right? Then the other thing that I would do on the group coaching sessions is that at the very end, what I would do is make sure that people understood that they had access to an individual coaching session if they wanted it. So a lot of people will probably say, hey, I'm enjoying this. I got a lot out of it. It's great. I have this and I've got a calendar and some timelines down, and they get what they need out of it. And they get it in a short, compact, kind of very organized method here. And that's all that they want or need. But some people will say, this isn't what I really needed at all. It's not that I don't know what I want to do. It's I don't know how to do it. I don't even know what's legal or available or whatever it might be. And they need to connect with a financial coach to kind of understand their unique situation. Or maybe it's so unique, it's an inheritance or whatever it might be. It just kind of didn't fit nicely in the parameters of what we were doing. So I always had like a tear-off sheet or a card or something that I would insert in there. So if you wanted to follow up with an individual coaching session, just write your contact information and I would get back to you. Sometimes knowing that maybe only 10 or 20% of the group, depending on the size, would convert into an individual session, I would actually just put some days and times that I was available and let them circle it, so that I would just confirm that, knowing that I wouldn't have really too many people overlapping. And if I did, we could just kind of slide people around a little bit. But what I'm basically saying here, and I think you got it, is that the individual coaching session, I don't really go into with any kind of pre-formed notion of what I'm going to do. In fact, I usually don't have anything prepared either, because it's just going to be fluid. It's going to be liquid like water. You're going to have to fill the vessel that's presented to you. But in group coaching, you have to be more prepared. You've got to, I think, also set the table here, kind of set the expectation of what we're going to cover. And that way, if people are saying, hey, that's not my issue, they can decide to come or not. They can opt in or not. But because I can't just say, hey, what's your primary goal for today? What's your primary goal? Yours. Even in 4 or 5 people, you're just going to run out of time. It's going to be all over the place. It's not going to be very cohesive. It's probably trying to help everyone, and it's probably not going to really help anyone. If you try to do individual coaching, a group coaching session, it's probably going to be, people might get some good tips, but in the end, they might be marginally better off than they were before. So what I really want to do is kind of be very prepared, usually have, say, a workbook, something physical that they can fill in so that they're reminded of what we talked about, so they can see some of the strategies. I usually make them very graphical. They almost look like children's books, but that kind of gets people engaged. Something very sterile kind of seems a little too clinical, I think. So that's what I do. And then I had 4 or 5 group coaching session workbooks ready to go, so that if people said, hey, debt is our employee's big issue, goal setting is, motivation, whatever it might be, I could kind of pick the thing that closest to that, and then, like I said, open it up to individual coaching. So hopefully that helps. And how can you become a financial coach to groups? There really isn't, as far as I've ever seen, really a lot of stuff, formal training for group coaching. And I would say that it's one of those things where even when I was doing it, there really wasn't a lot of stuff. But I would say that if you are trained as a coach, whatever kind of coaching that is, and you are familiar with how you would do it at an individual level, I would say really just think about it as you leading a course or a class. You're still going to use a lot of those same coaching techniques and tricks, but what you need to do now is put them into writing on that worksheet. So I think that's going to be the biggest help. I'm certainly happy to delve into this one a little more, but if you are a coach and you can write a curriculum, you have a plan, maybe you have a philosophy on something, paying off debt, buying a car, buying a house, making a major purchase, getting married, taking the next steps in your life stage to buy insurance, whatever it might be, right? Maybe you have, hey, here's what works. Here's how I have balanced raising 10 kids on a single income, or whatever it is, something that you're really good at, and you're like, this isn't the only way, but this is my way because I know it works. Put that down on paper, come up with kind of a process, an educational process, and use that in the group coaching. And don't sweat too much about trying to do coaching in the group coaching session. As much as you can, and motivate and get people engaged and equipped. But to me, what I was using that for is having a moment that allows people to go off on their own if they want to, DIY. And then for the people that got some information, but know now that they need some more individualized help, that they can reach out to me. So hopefully that helps. I'll see you later.